G'day, folks. Welcome to an EcoFarmers Discovery, the audiobook companion podcast. Join Ewan Campbell as he takes a deep dive into his book, uncovering all the secrets of soil health, biology, and true farm independence. You can listen along to his book on Spotify or download from Audible, and then catch us here as we deep dive into the events of each chapter. We're now up to chapter 9. Here we go. Ewan, what a great chapter. And who would have thought, well, actually, I suppose this happens all the time. You really dig into an idea, into a philosophy, and then someone turns up on a Cook Strait ferry and happens to be an electrolytic engineer.
Well, that's, the laws of attraction.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like magnetite in the soil. Give it a bit of a buzz and away it goes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, okay, so first question. Can you take me back to the moment that you realised the kelp meal was lining up?
Oh, just what the... I leant down to pick the bin up, and I just looked at it. Oh, shit. And I was sort of halfway through the motion of it, and I'm going, bloody hell. And what caused that? And it just bugged me. Really, really bugged me. I mean, what the hell did that? And it was all, philosophically. That's a big word, isn't it?
Yeah, at this time in the morning.
Yeah, it is at this time. I can remember not that long before sitting on the tree stump up on the hill, looking down the farm going, I've got to work out how this works.
Yeah.
And, that's when I got hold of the basic slag. And that saved our ass because we started growing some real grass. And then everything just kept folding on. I mean, I got to this point of looking at this and going, holy shit, what happens then? And then it was all came about that I had to go across to get these rocks over at Kaiawa for the garden. So I go to the rock place, the quarry, and I'm looking at all this material growing around the quarry, and I'm going, God, you should get some cows in here. There was lucerne and all these fabulous plants. And
yeah, great diet from the cows.
Absolutely. And he said, oh, no, they get out. And I said, well, they wouldn't run away anywhere. They'd stay here. You'd never be able to move them.
Yeah, that's right. Well, didn't you say if I was a cow, I know where I'd stay? That's
right. And it's crazy. And so while we were there, he was saying, oh, well, we get these rocks out of the pond, and then he said we filter this and that, and then we get that sludge off. And I go, oh, okay. And he just said, oh, we use that on our garden. I said, I can grow tomatoes as high as the house. And I go,
wow.
What, Dole's house? Okay, But he was right, because I took that slurry home and I had it in a greenhouse, and I grew cherry tomatoes. And they grew out through all the vents, and over the top of it, it was just, the whole thing was one big cherry tomato bloody organism. And when I was doing this, I had to drive past the gemstone factory at Ngatea.
I remember it well, actually.
It's this big orange building. And going in there and quizzing this guy, it just seemed so surreal, really, because one thing led to another. And so then after you're going to the gemstone factory, you're driving back into town, and you're driving past the solar power expert just on the edge of Pyro.
And it's just all coming together.
So I just stop and go, what the heck is all this about? And it starts to unfold. And being an avid reader of the Acres USA magazines, it was all the science and the things going, wow, I've just stumbled on something that nature does every day. And the reality of it is quite crazy, because it's simple. The Earth spins. It has a magnetic polarity. It's a dynamo. It has a magnetic field, because how else would compasses work?
Right.
You can't have a magnetic field without an electrical current. It's an impossibility. And so either way, you can't have an electrical current without a magnetic field. And either has an imposing force on each other. So as you get closer to the poles, what we discovered, the current went up. And as you went further away from the poles...
Which is what you found in Wales, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was just, that was 1.5 volts. What?
What would it compare to in, say, the North Island?
Well, we're about 0.25 in the spring, that's our highest voltage. And we'll get down to Invergiggle, or Invergargle.
The old Invergiggle.
Invergiggle, yeah. And we'll get up to 0.6 of a volt there when we're starting to move. And so you start to see the changes, and you can measure the Earth's magnetic field through Gauss meters. And so it's in Waihi, it's about 0.4 of a Gauss. and in Invercargill was 0.6 of a Gauss. So as it gets closer to the poles, the magnetic field goes up and the electrical current goes up. Now, nature's brilliant. Look at it. You have a short season, but you have massive electrical current, and you have that growth. Like farmers go to Invercargill or around Southland and do better per hectare production than they do in the Waikato. But we've got a much better climate. Why? And, that really goes back to earlier in the book when I was talking about being in Wales. And, it was 9 degrees and the grass was growing faster than I had ever seen it grow anywhere in the Waikato. And I'm talking, it was bloody miserable. I'm up this ladder shaking, shivering, and I'm turning around. It's the day of the Triffids. The grass is coming to get me. It's growing that bloody fast. Yeah. It was really like, what is happening? And so, as I suppose, it's just an interesting process, having travelled overseas and all these other bits and pieces, and I observe shit. And then I go, wow, how the hell did that work? What's going on with that? And, if you ask the question, the universe is a great answerer. That's if you want to.
The universe is a great answer. That's if you're open to seeing the answer, right? Well, you've got the eyes to see and you actually pay attention. Yeah.
That's all you can do. Yeah. Like, if you keep asking the questions, then the answers will come. You just got to see where they are.
I note, though, that while you were that far north in Wales watching the Day of the Triffids approach, that also, through listening to this book, you mentioned how predictable their weather was. I think it was an earlier chapter.
Yeah.
Right, but is there a relationship between the electricity and just how reliable you could predict the weather?
No, it is. It's really predictable. It's going to be shit. But
sorry, Wales.
Yeah. No, but like in that situation, I hadn't seen that circumstance before, where this hot air current comes up off the continent, and we don't get that. We get a very slight effect of Australia, but like you're going from 15, 16 degree days to 25, and just because the warm air's come up from the continent, bang, that. But no, generally it just meant that there was too much electricity and it had grey days and it was horrible.
Kind of wonder what that extra electricity does for humans too, just being around it. If it creates a different sort of set of circumstances in your health, maybe.
Look, the effect of what that current's going through is amplified no matter what you do. So if that current is exposed to chemicals, frequencies and all that, it amplifies it. And it has
the good and the bad.
They're very much so. And like as the further we go on, it's the good, the bad and the ugly. The good gets better, the bad gets pretty horrible, and the ugly gets unbearable. And as you find out, it's just like electronics and stereos, whatever. If you're not on the station and it's hissing at you, it'll hiss at you worse. So if your soils were in really good nick and you ramped the electricity up, beautiful things happened. And so what it did for my farming process was that it amplifies whatever's going on and makes it very, very visible. And that's really pertinent to what we were doing on the farm. You could start to see things that were happening, and we'll talk about a little bit later about the toxicity and effects in another chapter, but it really showed it to me. It was just so obvious. So going, things were going all right, and now things are very ugly. And you got to make changes, and you got to make changes quickly.
At what point did you connect the alignment of the kelp meal to the soil's paramagnetic properties?
That part was in Callahan's book. He was talking about paramagnetism and making things linear, and like I was just reading this chapter and going, thank you for that. Thank you. And the interesting thing, Callahan was saying how paramagnetism made things linear, but he hadn't connected the electrical content to go with it to actually bring about it. So we'd make another step on from what he'd already learned.
Well, what did he think was going on then if he hadn't connected that?
He had nothing in his books that showed that he talked about the electrical current.
Huh, okay. In terms of scientific exploration, how did the information from The Secret Life of Plants and Callahan's research help then interpret what was happening?
Well, that's the beautiful thing about this thing, is that if you're reading a compilation of a huge number of scientific works and processes, and you get to a certain part and going, hold on here, I know about that stuff. I can ask some people about this. And the penny just drops when they started talking about in The Secret Life of Plants are using magnetite around lemon trees and how it affected them and the increase in growth and that. And that's when I went off and saw the A&G Price, the foundry manager, because I didn't know who to ask. And the great thing about engineering and foundry managers, they have to do a science degree, a chemistry year before they can actually go into the engineering part. That's the basis that they actually have to know the chemistry. And so when you get to talk to people like that, they've actually got a much wider and broader view of the world than a lot of people.
Yeah, that's great. So many professions specialise too hard. All right, so what role does UV-reactive silica play in farming?
Well, that part there is the ongoing. Once I'd sort of realised what was happening, and we were having we had a hell of a good result from that basic slag. I mean, it saved the farm. It really did. And from that, you saw the massive increase in production, and you saw all these things happening, and so you knew, as I saw this electrical thing unfolding, and going, this has a major part in the process. Like, it has to have a huge bearing when you're looking at these books, Davis and Rawls, and then you start to look at the sciences, which I think are in the next chapter. But what you see is the electrical effect on biology and the uptake of minerals and the movement of stuff. And it's like when you look down at the beach, what was going on, I'm standing there looking at the beach and going, what's going on here with this? And then I get out the voltmeter and I put it in the beach and I say, hey, there's a current here. And then you realise, that's how all the sand, all the shells on the beach just disappear back into the ocean.
Yeah, that's mind-blowing, right? Everyone thinks that just the wash of the continual movement of water is what breaks these shells down, but not so.
Hell no. Like, you can go to beaches that are a rock beach or a shell beach where there's no sand, and it's just covered in broken shells, just absolutely covered. And they're not broke. They haven't lost their tensile strength. They're not corroding or anything like that. You go down to the sandy beach, and even if you want to go to be really technical about it, pick up that shell, take it down to the sandy beach, spread it out, and then just keep going back every day. And you watch it, gone. It's just incredible how quick it happens. And so if that wasn't the case, a sandy beach would be a shelly beach. Okay,
so I'm just keeping up with this. What's paramagnetic about the sand example?
Nothing at all. That's to do with the soil part. But on the beach sand, it showed the connection with how the silica in the sand could react with the UV portion of the sun. And it's the perfect example.
All right, so I'm getting a couple of things confused or conflated here, obviously, because there's no relationship there. But just loop back into volcanic soils for me.
There is I'll go back. I'll go when you go to the beach. It's a perfect example of how UV light reacts with silica.
Yeah.
The beach is all silica. It's not the best place in the world to create electricity, but it does it. And on a bright sunny day, you need your sunglasses, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
It's so bright.
Yeah.
Okay, so where did all that light come from? Now, also, it's so hot.
It's reflective, surely. Is it not?
White things don't get hot, do they?
No, that's true.
Okay, so if you put a white board on the beach,
you
could stand on it all day.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but you can't walk on the sand.
Okay.
So the UV light is actually reacting with the sand on the beach, and it puts through this reaction where the heat, light, and electricity is created. You see the light, need the sunglasses. You feel the heat, you can't stand on the beach. And the electricity then goes to the nearest pole or nearest place it can actually go to, and the electricity heads back into the ocean. And that electricity corrodes the shell on the beach. It just eats it, gobbles it up and takes it into the water.
Yeah.
So when you see that example, then you take that back onto the farm where we don't have a strong electrical pole, which was the ocean.
Right.
And so what we found was that the paramagnetism allowed, under this electrical stimulation, for it to line up exactly east-west, which was in correlation with the magnetic fields north-south.
Yes.
Because there's this Faraday's law, the right-hand rule, that there's a magnetic field to every electrical current.
Okay.
So when there's a current going one way, the magnetic field goes the other way.
I didn't realise that. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So that's the brilliance of nature. So magnetic north, magnetic east, west, the power goes that way. So there's the magnetic field that way and the electrical current going east-west.
Thank you for clarifying that. I think that's an important clarify. You've really filled in a gap there for me.
Ah, cool.
Okay.
Well, hopefully I've filled in a few pieces for everyone else. But,
Yeah.
and so there's this beautiful thing that happens in nature every day. The sun comes up, and as it's creating electricity, the UV light comes in, it's creating electricity, it creates an electrical current in the soil, the magnetic field goes up, and that's part of this whole big dynamo that we've got going on as the Earth's spinning around.
Right, thanks. That answers my question. Well, by the way, what was it like working with instruments like the paramagnetic meter and multimeter?
Paramagnetic is easy. The multimeter drive me freaking insane.
Because it was always varied?
Look, it's such a delicate thing to deal with when you're in the soil, because when you're looking at these lines, they're so tiny.
Yeah.
And to get the full extent of what power is going down each particular line, you actually have to get both electrodes touching on this line, which you can't see.
Right.
And you're only sitting there with a compass going, okay.
It must be here because the compass lines up. It must be along this direction.
And there's 27 millimeters apart, so you're playing around for ages, and then when you hit it, it just like, bang, it just sits there and it assaults. And I think, page 32 in my book, it's got a picture there of 0.38 of a volt. And it might have taken me 20 minutes. And then again, it might have taken me one. So sometimes you just sat down and bang, got it. And when you hit it, it just becomes very stable. It's just beautiful. And sometimes, when you hit it and you're on a cloudy day or a bright sunny day, you'll see a cloud come over and you'll see this thing fall. And then the sun will come out and you'll see it rise again.
Wow.
And it's just like going into the house at the solar panel, watching the solar panels when the sun comes out.
Yeah.
Up goes the power generator and all.
Fascinating.
So it's a beautiful thing, and it's I'm still waiting to come across some beautiful little engineer that can actually go, I can drop that on there and measure the electromagnetic field, and that'll tell me the current and blah blah blah, and that we can put it on the ground and image it. But it's a real thing. It's an absolute real thing.
We also could use a pair of electrovision goggles, I think.
Yeah.
That would actually see it. That'd be good.
That would be cool.
Yeah. So, what role does UV-reactive silica play in farming?
Well, this is the big killer. And what I've seen is that our extensive use of superphosphate has mutated the silicon portion that was in the soil that created the electricity. So we've actually denuded our electrical current in our soil by putting fertilizer on. Now, this was really evident when you go to places like the flats at Gisborne, where they were made of marine silts, paramagnetic material from volcanic activities, and they were, and the Hawke's Bay Flats were some of the most fertile pieces of ground in the country. But when they kept on using fertilizer on it, it buggered it. It actually lost its electrical activity, and it's lost its potential to stimulate biology and a whole lot of things. So what we went on to find out, and that was part of the work that I did with Quarry at Kaiawa and the UV box that I got from the gemstone factory, was that certain silicas really amplified up. You could actually see the reaction. So I'm in this box and I'm putting this material and that material, and you could see by the colour what was reacting and how much it was reacting. And as we found these certain marine silts that were actually reacting hugely, again, now I see what's going on. So when we came back and I started playing around with, if we mix some of these marine silts and some of this magnetite material and some of this and some of that, and we played around for a bit, I could actually make a powdered solar panel. And I could take that powdered solar panel and go out in the paddock and I could throw it on and I could create electricity. And so by doing that, then you had to, whatever you were going to amplify, you got amplified more and more. And I mean, as we go through the books, we'll go through all the stages of the shit that we saw and we had to clean up, or the good things that we saw and we had to make better, or the parts that really enjoyed seeing, and then parts that we really hated seeing.
It makes you wonder though, like if it's that effective at gathering the sun's rays and turning it into an electrical output, I wonder if someone could actually come up with a powdered solar panel for real and cast it into a frame, and you'd be able to help people in the third world by carrying the solar panels in bags.
Solar panels are cheap as shit now, and they produce a shitload of electricity. But like we make solar panels for the farms. I think more than anything, I'd like to know how to harvest the electricity off the paddock, which would be hey presto. So
there's the massive solar panels there.
Absolutely,
and we call them paddocks.
That's right.
Oh, that's funny. I was actually going to ask you about how it could be harnessed on a larger scale.
I have played around with a few things, but I mean, I'm not an electrical engineer, and you just get distracted.
Yeah. So what was the noticeable change to livestock productivity?
Look, when it was on good ground, it was pretty cool to watch. I mean, the type of plants that were growing and just the whole digestibility. You know, the animals would clean paddocks up far better, that, you know, we were getting better utilisation. It was pretty cool. But as I say, as we go through the book further, the greatest thing that showed up from putting this electrical effect through, it amplified what you had.
Can we apply that to the average dairy farmer for a moment? Like what they would expect out of changes made there? I
won't go onto any farm and put that solar panel on by itself anymore. I will
because you're going to worsen things as well as improve things.
Yeah,
you amplify whatever.
Yeah, that's right. And if they haven't got a mineral balance and a process with the right biology and an ability to clean their soils up and do the whole thing, we're actually causing trouble. So when we go onto a farm now, and as we go through the book, you'll see, you know, all the other facets that we had to take into account of when you ramp the electricity up, you actually have to look after this, and this, and which we do. And I think that's when people come into the shed now at work and they just get fascinated when they see these amazing piles of this and that. What do you get that for? Oh, we use that for this. Oh, and what do we do? Oh, and like there's, you know, 14 or 15 piles around the shed, and every one of them has a specific use.
What's the most expensive one of those piles?
Some of the trace elements.
I would have thought so, right? Because trace implies harder to get, doesn't it?
Oh, look, iodine's just... Yeah. But, you know, some of these things are expensive, but they actually... And they're tiny amounts, then they can have a massive effect.
Yeah. You spoke to experts in alternative energy, paramagnetism and electrolytic corrosion. What was the most valuable or surprising piece of information you learned from those conversations?
I guess the thing that I really started to see was the variation. Like, say, if you went to the ocean, the electrolytic corrosive potential changed. And one of the big issues with us is aluminium. So in the ocean, aluminium flips with zinc, I think it is. And so on land, zinc will corrode after aluminium, but in the ocean, zinc will corrode before aluminium. And hence they use the zinc block as a sacrificial part.
Yeah.
So if you bring that back onto the land, you're going, oh, shit. So whatever we're doing on the land allows us, if you up the electricity, you can harvest aluminium. That's not a good thing.
No.
And so that was one of the big things that we had to actually get my head around, what we were doing in changing the way that we were dealing with the soil was actually to turn it more into an environment like the ocean. So that the electrical potential could then pick up the right minerals, stimulate the right process without causing these problems of free aluminium in the food. And you know, we see that in the soil test, herbage tests all the time now, soil and herbage tests,
Yeah, it's quite dangerous, isn't it, to have too much aluminium in your system for a lot of reasons.
No, yeah, it makes you go a bit dull.
Yeah. And is there still the link between that and senility?
Yeah, like
Parkinson's, things like that.
There's a great researcher in Britain. His name passes me by at the moment, but you know, he was a researcher into ADD Alzheimer's and
That's what I was trying to say, Alzheimer's.
Yeah, Alzheimer's, bipolar and all that. And basically he just checks everybody's brains out that die from this and who are healthy. And he said there's one thing absolute for sure. Anyone with any of those conditions have more aluminium than anyone else in their brains.
Wow. Is that in the amyloid plaques that are found?
That's a lot of big words there, Stephen.
I just made them up.
Oh, okay. It could be. I'm not sure of the terminology, but like it was brilliant. And this part really ran through with the silicon as well, is that the best way to remove the aluminium was actually introduce silicon, the right form of silicon, because silicon always binds with aluminium, and then the body will shoot it out. So there's
Is it enough for someone who's listening to this to just suddenly go and grab silica supplement, or is that really an inappropriate response?
No, it's fine. Silicic acid, if you can find a form, even the tissue salts and that sort of stuff, it'll all help. The biggest thing is the way to get rid of aluminium out of the body is to introduce the right form of silicon that will bind with it. The body does not know what to do with free aluminium. It was never designed to actually have it in there. So when you get flooded by it, what do? You go, but do-lally.
Yeah. Totally. That's what it is. That's what I've done. Okay, so have you ever met with skepticism, bridging this engineering and agricultural, drawing those parallels?
A bit of what are you on about? I don't know what you're on about. But the people like the engineer at A&G Price, he was just brilliant. I started talking.
Oh, he's obviously open-minded.
Yeah, I didn't. He says, "Oh shit, oh that makes sense." The biggest challenge I got really was from the guy I talked to in England, who was the electrolytic corrosion specialist. He just couldn't see how it affect, what it would be doing in soils and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
But although I got huge amount of information from how things functioned as far as their ability to stop corrosion on pipelines, drain wharves with water, and all sorts of things that they were doing.
That wasn't the guy that you met on the Inter Islander.
No. This guy was in England. He's my ex-brother-in-law's brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So, looking back, I should say, what do you think of the implications of your findings for agriculture in areas with non-volcanic soils?
Oh, look, you can fix it. It's easy. You can, by the introduction of bringing the paramagnetic as part of what we've done, we can actually create that solar panel by bringing that as part of the equation. So that can remedy that quite quickly. It was just that nature allowed us to see that, because we didn't have we had paramagnetic soil, so that was already part of the equation on that soil that it created that situation.
Right.
So what happens is that when you go to a soil that hasn't got much paramagnetic, we have that product in there that helps it to all align, and it works fine.
Oh, that's cool. You mentioned soil currents transporting nutrients and stimulating growth. Do you think this process could revolutionise modern farming techniques?
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's revolutionised. Look, the reality is, all I've done is found out how nature works. I can't redesign anything. This thing is such a beautiful and pure process. It is phenomenal. And you just have to go and look at some of those most abundant areas that before we destroy them. And you'll always go back to ancient civilizations. Why did they go to the river deltas? Why did they go in Egypt to the Nile? Why do they go to all these places? It's where all of this happens. The silts come down the rivers, the sea comes in, the right silica forms, the right biology. The whole process was just so beautiful, and they were abundant.
Yeah, yeah, true that. So, looking back, what are you most proud of regarding this discovery?
I don't even know if I'm proud of it. It's like I'm pretty happy with what I discovered, but I guess the thing about it is that I'm quite happy, or I think the most thing is that I'm really happy that I keep looking. It makes life interesting.
Well, I would have thought you might say really stoked about the fact that you can share it with other people, because you do that all the time and you're really helping people's farms. So
That's got to be one of them too, right?
Well, I guess, yeah, maybe I've sort of underestimated what's going on out there now. And a lot of people are actually, starting to really prod me about things that have happened and how it's helped their situation. And I'm just happy plodding along and having a great time. Now, I mean, it caused some shit, It caused some big shit, and that's the I guess that, the frustration that comes from when you actually discover something that has the benefit to help so many people.
Yeah.
And you get castigated for it because they don't like the idea that somebody else has worked something out. It's hilarious, really, when you think about it. I mean, I got a patent following this, and which, in patent law, if they put the patent through, they acknowledge that you are the world's first.
Right.
That's it. They go and look all over the world at all the different patents and see whether someone else has done this. Now, I'm not concerned about the patents lapsed, but what I did, because once the patent's lapsed, it still stops anyone else patenting it. So the situation is that it's been discovered and it's in patent law, and it's probably the best place that it sits there that, oh, shit, somebody's already done that, so nobody can, try and
claim they've
done it before.
They've done it for the first time.
Yeah.
There's so much in this chapter that's pivotal to a series of events that took place in your life from this discovery. For the person listening, is there something that's gone unexpressed about this? Have I missed an insight here? Because I feel like, just putting the questions down and just not reading them for a second, because I think about the chapter, I do a bit of reviewing beforehand and go, okay, here's some questions for you. But it occurs to me there's something I'm missing, and I think it's really important that people listening to this pivotal point on the journey realize the impact that this means for the rest of the book and maybe for what they're doing.
When you look at it, I just observed these lines in the soil, and then I just well, how did that happen? How did that happen? And it just unfolded like so many discoveries around the world. You didn't go and trial it because there was nothing to trial because you didn't know what you were looking at. A discovery comes from finding out something new, and that's the part I guess I should be celebrating to a huge degree that holy shit, I've worked out how this works. But in a lot of ways, what followed was the brutality of actually being better at something than we were before. And it's all right if you're an Olympian and a swimmer and a runner or whatever else, but if you push the boundaries of financial and agricultural and industry as such, and you're not actually, they actually look at you as a leper more than actually, holy shit, there's something that could actually totally revolutionise our farming industry for the better. That's the part where I suppose you just got to sit back. For me to sit back and going, I probably didn't get to celebrate enough because what followed.
How does that saying go? At first they ridicule you, then they...
Yeah. First they ignore you, then they ridicule, laugh at you, and then they fight you, and then you win.
Then you win.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at this point in the story, you're up to the winning bit.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
And the thing about it is, and this is why I realised, and I've probably become pretty brutal about the whole process. I mean, people understand the law work I've done and all the other stuff, and that is that if we can't do what we want on our own farm and have no negative effect, like I'm only talking to people and they're going, holy shit, look at this and look at that, and they all turn up wanting to know what I'm doing. And somebody comes along and starts being brutal to you because they don't like you. I mean, that's coercion, thuggery and all that, and that's in the law. It's totally against the law. But here is a systemized approach to get rid of you. And, when you say, oh, we need good governance, and going, Well, it should be in a local community. It shouldn't be by Big Brother, because you get manipulated by outside sources. And as we went on, it was so obvious. It's just so obvious. Like, there wasn't one scientist that came and asked me. There was never been one scientist that walked on the farm and said, we really need to know what you're doing, because what you're saying is that you can do this and grow all this carbon and have clean water, and that's all of what we want. But not one of them came, and haven't came. Never, ever came. Never, ever asked the questions of electrical corrosion or any of this sort of stuff at all. And so you get to realise that most would look at you quite cynically when you say the universities, the research centres, the whole money that's gone into it is a complete and utter waste of time. Because all it's doing is protecting an industry that has come about over time and has this big approach, and we make money and we do it our way. And I'll tell you what, they were the ones that felt threatened by me. And I'm going, what's all that? So it was quite disparaging, I suppose, to a great discovery. I think it is a great discovery, and how it works, to be actually looked upon as a leper, and then to realise that the society we live in is actually not really a society. It's just a big business that's trying to control us.
The only solution I could imagine of having the satisfaction of a scientist coming and look at that would have to be a tenured professor who is in no way at risk of losing their job and can finally be open-minded to interesting new things, right? Because then they can go and do it. But you've got to find the right one somewhere in the world who isn't going to be worried that they'll be ridiculed because they maybe they're at the end of their career, they're tenured, they can't lose their job.
Well, I saw a thing the other day. There's a set of 4 programs called Roots So Deep, and it's based in the USA on grazing patterns and how they manage their cattle, and they monitored the 2 different systems, and they got 13 or 14 scientists involved, right from the bugs to the soil biology right through.
Oh, cool.
And they had to be... It took 5 years to set the process up because all the universities were fighting against what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do it. And these guys, when they first put the invitations out, they all jumped at it. And one of the guys was a guy called Rick Teague, who's done quite a bit of the carbon work and that. And he's read my book and he said, brilliant, absolutely awesome.
Oh, how gratifying is that?
Yeah, but I mean, to see those people doing some work that actually had a huge benefit and affected people's lives, and the livestock thrived from it, and then the bird life came back on these farms and all these things. It's like they got over their egos and they were working on what worked.
Exciting.
Yeah, and it was exciting to see, hey, yahoo, we finally got some people that are actually not concerned about the university thumping around. But going back to what Albrecht did, and Professor of Soils at Missouri University, even he was under immense pressure as he started to unravel this process, because he wasn't promoting the chemical agricultural process. He was promoting solutions.
He wasn't promoting the old paradigm.
Yeah, so it's all right to be cynical.
Yeah.
You have to be at some stage. But, I mean, the other side of it, you don't let it get you down too much.
What a great way to end.
Yeah.
Number 9, Electrifying.
Follow along with your own hard copy of the book from efa.nz, or listen to the audiobook on Spotify and Audible.